Hi guys, this is an AI and now on with the story. Chapter 52 Naruto's Pov. I was able to train with Hanabi a little bit so she doesn't form bad habits just fighting her clansmen. She was doing fairly well while I was watching her fight, but once she faced me it was clear that the holes that she inadvertently opened up were due to constant fighting against her clan. I pointed these problems out to Hiyashi-sama, who graciously accepted changing her training methods in the future. Naruto-kun, I heard Hinata say behind me as I turned to meet her eyes. Hinata-hime, I said with a smile and took her hand in my own. Naruto, remember what I told you, don't be out too late or I will be given a tenketsu a day for the rest of my life. I remember, Hiyashi-sama, I said, bowing. Good, have fun now and take care of my daughter, Hiyashi-sama said as the two of us made our way out of the compound. So where are we going? Hinata-hime asked. That is a surprise, I said with a cheeky grin. Are you taking me to Ichiraku's again? She asked with a small chuckle. No, especially after last time, I said, remembering that contest they held where she was able to eat more ramen than me. She laughed as I sulked about losing that contest for about a week. After a few minutes of walking we reached the location for our picnic, which was at the top of a waterfall near the village walls. We ate in peace. We talked for a bit as I told stories of my travels with Pervy Sage and some new techniques that we have come up with for the future. We had finished our food and rested side by side as we watched the sun slip under the horizon, casting a dimly lit blanket of a full moon now cascading across the land. We sat there in the cool early autumn air, just enjoying the moment when I knew it was getting late, but I just wanted to stay here with her for a while longer. All good things must come to an end, as I knew that if I wanted to live into next week I would need to take her home soon. Hinata-hime, I think it's time to go, I said, nudging her gently. Hinata-hime, I said, looking at her closely. Seeing that she had fallen asleep, I smiled as I gently kissed her forehead and picked her up bridal style and began my trek back to the Hyuga compound. After the long walk, as I tried not to disturb her, I made it into the compound and walked Hinata to her room, laying her into bed and sat down at the foot of the bed. I brushed the loose hairs off her face, tucking them behind her ear, and I cupped her cheek in the palm of my hand. Good night, my Hime, I will see you in a month's time, my love, I said, kissing her on the forehead again, and was about to leave when her arms wrapped around me, dragging me down into bed with her. I look over to see Hiyashi-sama in the doorway, who had been there the entire time, let off a small laugh before replacing it with the typical Hyuga's stoic look. I waved at him, trying to get him to help me silently, but he spoke up instead. Hinata has been known to have a vice grip while she sleeps. I have a feeling she won't let go anytime soon. If you try anything, I will give you a fate far worse than death. Wait, try anything? What do you mean? Just help me out, I said as he shook his head. Even I am unable to escape her vice grips. I am afraid you will have to stay here tonight, Hiyashi-sama said. Stay W with H, Hinata, I practically yelled, causing Hiyashi to shush me. Be quiet, people are trying to sleep. Also, you do not want to wake her up or my tenketsu will look like a small pat on the back, he said, making a chill shoot up my spine. Don't try anything, he said, closing the door. I looked at him as he closed the door, leaving just the two of us, and I was a blushing mess. I decided to just wrap my arms around her and try to sleep the best that I can. After about 3 hours I was still wide awake as I tried my hardest to sleep. Time skip. I woke up after maybe 20 minutes of sleep to a wide-eyed Hinata. Naruto-kun, she said, shocked. Hey Hime, I said as I managed to not be a blushing mess. What are you doing here? What if Sama finds out? She said as I raised my hand, stopping her. Your father saw you trap me in a Vice grip once I was about to leave last night and he said that it was okay just this one time, I said holding back a blush. Oh, she said tapping her fingers together, look I would love to stay with you longer Hinata-heim but I have to go I have a mission to go on, I said as she frowned slightly. How long will you be gone? She asked. About a month, I said averting my gaze. A month? She said in surprise. I know but it's to train in Senjutsu I need to get stronger if I am to fight and win against the Akatsuki leader, I said causing her to jump. What it is clear that he will be the one to come after me so it is best to be as strong as possible by then, I continued. I understand Naruto-kun, she said looking down gripping her bedsheets. I love you Hinata-heim, I said standing up. I love you too Naruto-kun, she said as I kissed her and left for the meeting place with Pa. Time skip, are you ready Naruto boy? Pa asked as I nodded as we were reverse summoned to Mount Myoboku. Hey Naruto how are you holding up? I heard from Gamakichi and Gamatatsu. I'm alright let's just get on with training, I said walking along with Pa into a small hut. Here. You made it just in time for breakfast, Ma said laying out a table full of different insects in arachnids. I nearly threw up looking at the food but I kept it down knowing that Ma really is trying her best. I ate every bite trying my hardest to hold it all in. I was able to do so but after about 10 minutes of training I hurled all over the place. I'm sorry Pa I didn't want to be rude but I don't know if I'll last a month on that, I said looking at the insects which some were still squirming. I knew that would happen both your father and Jiraiya boy had the same issues, he said with a chuckle. I think Ma does it just to show you that even the worst human food is better than the insects of Mount Myoboku, he said laughing. He began to explain how the Senjutsu training worked. And for the first week he had me on a board working on staying absolutely still when I was able to do that. I then began to absorb nature chakra while Pa whacked me on the head with a stick every time I drew in too much. How many times do I have to tell you not to draw in too much? Pa said smacking me with the stick again. I am trying. It is harder than I thought it would be, I said as he smacked me across the face. I wasn't even absorbing anything, I yelled pointing accusingly. Focus or you'll turn to stone. Pa shot back. I sighed knowing that I needed to focus but I didn't realize how quickly I needed to draw the chakra in. This continued for another week or so and I finally was getting the hang of Senjutsu. Everything was fine until one day one of the smaller toads left as a messenger for Ba-chan arrived saying that the Akatsuki leader was attacking Konoha along with Gamabunta Gamakan Gamahiro Gamakichi and Pa. Your world shall know pain, said a floating figure above Konoha. Suddenly in one fell swoop the entirety of Konohagakure was destroyed before my very eyes. I heard many screams of agony and sorrow when one voice rang out, Naruto-kun, Chapter 53. Narutos Pov. I was looking at the destruction of what once was my home. I was pissed. Kurama, I yelled mentally. Let's kick this guy's ass, Kurama snarled. I rushed in like a rocket and pinned the man down the very second he landed on the ground. The hell do you want? I snarled similarly to Kurama. You as a matter of fact, the man with purple eyes with black rings said. And why is that so? You can steal the tailed beast inside of me Yahiko, I asked. How do you know that name? The man yelled grabbing my throat. I gasped for air as he quickly lifted me off of him and threw me like a rag doll across the open crater. I flipped midair in an attempt to land on my feet when a second person appeared catching me. Who is this? I thought as the person began absorbing my chakra. Wait, Senjutsu would turn them to stone. I thought as I began collecting nature chakra and within seconds the person bloated turning into a frog statue. It seems that you have learned Jiraiya sensei's sage jutsu. This could be a problem, Yahiko said as 4 others appeared next to him, all with orange hair, purple eyes with black rings and black piercings. Kuchiyose no jutsu, 1. Yelled as a rhino and a weird bird was summoned at the same time. Shit, I said, rolling out of the way from the rhino. The bird swooped down next as I used what little senjutsu within me as well as some of Kurama's chakra and stopped the beak from turning me into its own personal shich kebab. Impressive, you have more control over the Kyuubi than I had anticipated, Yahiko said. It's not about control, I said, twirling around swinging the bird with me gathering momentum. It's about partnership, I yelled, throwing the summons towards the original, Shinra Tensei, the man said, holding his hands towards the bird, causing it to divert from its course over all of their heads. The bird vanished in a plume of smoke as it soared through the air. I had finally evaded the bird and was happy until the rhino rammed me. Damn you, I yelled, holding my side before forming a half-ram seal. Kage bunshin no jutsu, I yelled as I made around 20 clones. I had sent 3 of them off to gain senjutsu that I would need for later if the fight dragged on, while 5 would try and engage hand to hand with each of my foes. I had another 5 deal with the rampaging rhino with the help of Gamabunta, while the other toads protected anyone still alive in the mess of a village. The remaining 7 helped me in support against the people and summons with long-distance jutsu flashing through hand signs. I, along with 4 others, all yelled out, Goton Dairandan no Jutsu 5 release great combo technique. We all called out as one of the 5 main elements shot from each of us as it collided with the person with multiple weapons built into his body. And you have the mastery to some degree over the 5 elements, Yahiko said, dodging a jab from my bunshin and slamming it to the ground, dispelling it. Will you put a cork in it, Carrot Top? I yelled in frustration, only being able to take one of them out. I then watched as more of my bunshin get dispelled by the other people, and the rhino who Ma and Pa took care of I sent in the bunshin for support to engage in taijutsu to learn the fighting style to a high degree, but he would dispel them practically instantaneously. Suddenly I felt something slithering up my leg. Looking disowned, startled, I see a small Katsuyu slithering up my leg. Naruto, she said as I grabbed her and placed her on my shoulder. Who are the others? I know that one, but the others are obscure to me, I said while pointing at Yahiko. Naruto, these people are all dead. They are being controlled by someone else from a nearby location, Lady Katsuyu said. So they are all zombies, I said hesitantly. No, I feel that the rods are like a wireless receiver but for chakra, allowing one to control the corpses from afar, she elaborated. I see, I said as one of my bunshin has gathered enough senjutsu for me. Perfect, I said, dispelling it and gaining the nature chakra from it. Kurama, wanna add some more spice to the mix? I asked as he pumped some chakra through me. You got it, Kit, he said. Let's go, Kurama, I said aloud, charging in. Every punch and kick I made was dodged easily by my opponents. I fought like this for a few minutes, unable to land a hit on any of them. Fine, let's do it this way, I said, making more bunshin. 11 to be precise. 5 made similar hand signs before, while the other 5 made new hand signs. The last made a large pool of water. Goton Dairandan no Jutsu. The first 5 yelled, Hyaten Soryu. Bofusetsu Ice Release Twin Dragon Blizzard, yelled another, Sabaku Q Sand Burial Coffin. The second yelled, the Kuten Bakuhatsu Sei Boido Explosion Release Explosive Void 1 inch. Another yelled, Shoten Hasha Koryu Crystal Release Burst Crystal Falling Dragon. The fourth yelled, Daiton Chikyu no Nami Mud Release Waves of Earth 2 inches. The last bunshin yelled, Senpo Mokuton Mokoryu Enbu Sage Art Would release Wood Dragon dance performance. I yelled. I watched as Yahiko's face contorted into one of shock. He was too stunned even to use Shinra Tensei. The jutsus rushed towards Yahiko when paper suddenly wrapped around him and sent him flying. The hell? I said, watching the paper move as if it had a mind of its own. I then remember Itachi mentioning someone within the Akatsuki with this ability. Suddenly a woman with blue hair and some piercings appeared. Naruto Uzumaki, you have been quite a thorn in our operation, saving the cage at the cost of Sasori of the Red Sands life, assisting Kumo with the deaths of both Kakazu and Hidan, or rather our not-so-immortal duo. Even Jiraiya-sensei found where we were and challenged Pain-sama in battle. Falling to his might, she said, looking at me. What's your point? I asked before one of the others walked up and spoke. You do not know of the atrocities that the 5 major nations have caused to those amongst the minor nations through their petty wars. The one said. I'm sorry, who are you? I asked. Pain. All of us are Pain, they said. Wait, I am Pain, I said, trying to piss them off. What? No, we are Pain, they said, now pointing to the others. Are you Pain? I said, pointing to Conan. What? No, I am Conan, she said. Wait a minute, if they are all dead and you are not Pain, then would I be wrong if I guessed that the real Pain is actually Nagato? I said as the 3 remaining people and Conan froze. How do you know about us? She said in surprise. Well, let's just say you had a mole who was helping me for years, I said, stunning them all. Who? They demanded I answer. I don't feel like telling you. Carrot Top or Ms. Origami, I said. Damn you. The one, Pain yelled suddenly. I felt my chakra draining again. The hell? I said, turning to see the Pain. I turned to stone. Perfectly fine. I then began pumping Senjutsu into him, turning him to stone once again. When will you learn? I said, looking at one of the Pains healing the others. So that's how? I thought, eyeing my next target. You will know what Pain means when I am done with you, the original said, walking out of some weird thing's mouth. As if I don't know that already, I said, looking at him like he is an idiot. How could you possibly know Pain? He said, causing me to laugh my ass off. Really, you are trying to capture the Jinchuriki and don't understand the struggles that they go through on a daily basis? I asked. You couldn't have struggled as much as me, the Pain said, lunging forward. I deflected his arm that held some sort of black rod similar to the piercings on his body. Try me, I said, drawing a kunai and throwing it at him, but not an ordinary kunai. No one's Pov. Pain's human path dodged it as a Rasengan swirled into existence in Naruto's hand. A black rod began to protrude from the palm of his hand in an attempt to stab Naruto in the abdomen. You will now know my Pain, Pain yelled in victory when Naruto vanished from his sight real fast. Rasengan. Suddenly Pain swelled up in Pain's back, ironic as he crashed into the ground and watched as he was driven down further from the eyes of the other paths. The human path was now out of commission, along with the Asura path and the Preta path. Kuchiyose? The animal path began to yell until suddenly Naruto was upon them, destroying them as well. There were now only 2 paths left, the Diva path and the Naraka path. Naruto charged in, throwing a punch towards the Diva path, slightly missing him to the left, but the force of the punch was enough to smash into the side of the Diva path's face, sending him flying back. Naruto saw his opportunity and created a Rasen Shuriken, throwing it at the Naraka path, destroying it, leaving only the Diva path. Unfortunately, Naruto had run out of Senjutsu chakra at this point, as well as clones gathering the chakra. Feeling pain shooting through his body, he found himself pinned to the ground, unable to utilize his chakra by the black rods. Looking up, he watched as the Diva path was about to knock him out when he was sent flying back by a large force of wind. Stay away from him. Naruto heard someone yell from behind him. Naruto turned only to see an injured Hinata rushing in to save him. No, stay back, Naruto yelled, but it was all in vain as time and time again she tried to free him. She was sent away from the gravity control of pain that gave Naruto an idea activating his dojutsu was about. The only thing he could do in this state, he watched as pain used his gravity control again for nothing to happen. He tried to channel Kurama's chakra as well, but he was completely shut off at the moment. Paper began to rush towards Hinata, causing Naruto to look at the female Akatsuki member who had stayed out of battle this entire time. Leave them be, this is not something that you can meddle in without any consequences, she said as Naruto's eyelids feel weird in one of the many puddles left on the ground from earlier. Naruto saw his eyelids were now white and looked like paper. Naruto's attention was diverted back to Hinata as his eyes turned back to normal along with his eyelids. She was practically floating in the air when suddenly she came crashing down to the ground. No, my pain. Naruto Uzumaki, the diva path, shouted, stabbing Hinata in the heart, killing her. Hinata, Chapter 54 Naruto's Pov. I watched as the crimson liquid oozed out of her lifeless body as she was looking in my direction with a content smile. Rage filled within me, and Yahiko was definitely not helping. Do you hate me because I have taken someone you care about? Are you mad that you will never see them again for the rest of your short life? I will take you down and show the world that pain is the only way to keep everyone in line, he said before going on saying anything and everything to piss me off more. This whole time Kurama was screaming at me to calm down as I have yet to face my inner demons, and if this goes on I could end up releasing him, killing me in the process. I was suddenly transported into my mindscape. I watched as my shirt came undone as well as the seal began to ooze black liquid into the sewer water below. Kit, calm down. If you keep this up you will kill yourself. Kit, Kurama pleaded as I walked ever so closely towards the cage keeping the Kyuubi sealed. He kept yelling at me to stop as I reached up, grabbing the piece of paper labeled seal and began to pull on it when a hand suddenly grabbed mine and pulled me away from the seal. I looked up to see the man that I had idolized for a long time in my early years, and I was ecstatic to learn he was my father, but I had also cursed him for what he had done to me. At least for the first year. I stood up, taking his held out hand as he hoisted me up. Do you know who I am? He asked as tears streamed down my face. I take from your reaction that you do, he said with a half smile. No, I said, stunning him. No, what do you mean, like you don't know who I am or something? He asked, chuckling a bit. I know who you are. Yawn. To-san. I corrected as my knees buckled under me. Naruto, he yelled in surprise as he lunged to catch me. I just watched Hinata. My sweet Hinata die. I said as tears kept flowing. There was a moment of silence as I felt arms wrap around me. I am sorry, Naruto. I wish that there was something that I could help you with before he started, but I shoved him off as I began to yell. How could you seal the Kyuubi into your own son? What did you think would happen? The world would be all rainbows and sunshine once the villagers who know nothing of Fuinjutsu may add realize that within me is the demon that killed their loved ones, the beast that is feared by all throughout the world. I lived the entirety of my life under the harsh gazes of the villagers. I was beaten, stabbed, burned, and so much more at the meager age of 4 years fucking old. I screamed, venting out all of my frustration as he walked up to me again. I punched him across the jaw before even more tears fell from my face. Why? I said, crashing down again. I did it because I believed you could learn to utilize the Kyuubi's power, he said as I looked back up at him, seeing the Kyuubi in his cage behind him with worried eyes. I nodded. expecting a similar response, whipping the tears from my face. I have to say I thought that the Kyuubi would have been a little more feral seeing me again, Tusan said, pointing over his shoulder. I am pissed, all right, Kurama said, accompanied by a growl. Kurama, I said, silencing his snarl. Kurama, Tusan asked. Yeah, that's his name, I said, pointing to the beast. Albeit I thought they were mindless? Before Kurama lunged, smashing into the cage bars. They are definitely not mindless beings, I said, but before anyone said anything else I spoke up again. Although this one is at times. I said, damn you Naruto, the beast yelled. Who was this Hinata? Tusan asked as I flinched. Hearing her name, she was everything you could hope for, I said before describing her, how we had met and how we had become a couple and so on. He laughed occasionally at my comments until I said something that startled him. Yeah, everything was great. I had Hinata Tusan ka-san there for me. And I stopped realizing what I had said. Naruto? Tusan asked, a little hurt. Ah, that's right, I said, scratching the back of my head. I was adopted when I was around 12, almost 13, by your student Kakashi Hatake, and he recently proposed to Anko Mitarashi, making her who I called Ka-san. I said, looking down, realizing that I was essentially talking to a stranger and calling him father. Tusan, I said in a low tone. Yes Naruto, he replied. What am I supposed to do? I asked, causing him to take a deep breath and look at me. You move on, he said as I realized what he meant. You mean, I am not telling you to forgive this person, but you must understand them and how they are hurting on the inside in order to even come close to understanding how to come to an agreement. Tusan said, looking at me. I think that it is about time, he said before digging into his pouch for something and smiling. Perfect, he said, bringing out a scroll from his pouch. Here, he said, handing me the scroll. I was confused about how any of this worked, but when I was about to open it I realized all the intricate seals on it. What are these? I asked, pointing them out. Those, well, one's a blood seal, another is a chakra seal that is keyed to both yourself and my own chakra, the other one is a seal that will read your fingerprint, and the other one is a very hard seal to crack, he said. Well, how do I open it? I asked as he smiled. Go to these coordinates when you are finished with this and you will find everything you need in order to open this up. I hope that you are aware that you are now holding the reins to your future, and if you can master that you will surely have surpassed me, he said before saying something unrelated. Now how about you show me those eyes of yours, he said, and I was confused for a second but realized what he meant. Oh yeah, I said, activating my dojutsu, still not used to the paper-like eyelids. He whistled and asked me how much I had copied as I answered 12. What? He said, surprised. What 12? Well, futon suiten kaiten doten raten hyaton mokaton, I said, counting on my hand. He was confused at hyaton, but he stopped me at mokaton. Hold on, you can copy elements that were passed down via keke genke, he asked. I nodded before pointing to Kurama. Yeah, because of him I am able to copy them. I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is that I channel his chakra into my eyes when I activate them and I can copy them. I said. Alright, what else? He said. Write Jishin Bakuten Shoten Daiton and Kamiton paper release. We looked up what paper was and it came up as Kami. We could be wrong, we don't know Japanese. Really, that's amazing. Like I said, I think I am about to run out of chakra, so this is goodbye, Masuko, he said as tears began to run down my face again. Wait, you never told me about Ka-san or yourself. I realized as I shouted I knew very little about my father and my mother. You will learn more about the two of us later on. I think you would be better off regaining control, he said. Before I realized that I had been in here for a while not knowing what was going on around me in the Real world I was mad, but I knew that I had to focus on taking back control. I was able to catch a glimpse of everything, but it was bad. I had gone into my Hachibi form, moving into Q. Shit, this is close, I thought as I began gathering nature energy as I was stationary within the large mass of rock floating above the earth. Suddenly I reverted back to myself with my senjutsu state. I was looking down at the man with orange hair and a torn Akatsuki cloak. I know he killed Hinata, but I have to do this for the village, stay strong for long enough, I thought, pushing the thought of Hinata into the back of my mind. I jumped down, now facing the man at an even level. It seems that you were able to revert back into your human form and in an uncontrolled Hachibi state. Impressive, he said as I still watched his every move. I could see every muscle twitch in his face and throat as he spoke, but I ignored the words. I noticed his hands raised towards me and I read his lips. Shinra Tensai, was all he said as a heavy force of the wind pushed against me. I countered this by moving the wind around me, creating a current forcing every bit of matter to flow around me and propel me forward. This completely negated the attack. I made a few hand seals. Suiten dai bakufu no jutsu, I yelled as a massive vortex of water charged towards the stunned Yahiko. The jutsu crashed into him as I then channeled Raiden chakra into the water, electrocuting him and nearly frying him. I watched the knocked out Yahiko lay there as I yanked each and every black rod and used the last rod to stab into my shoulder, and utilizing the last bit of senjutsu I had, I located the real pain. I ran as fast as I could to not let them escape, and when I got there I walked through a paper match tree into an opening with a man and a familiar woman. Conan Nagato, let's have a chat. Chapter 55 Naruto's Pov. How would you bring about peace? Nagato said rather out of the blue. I'm sorry, I said, blindsided by the comment. How would you bring peace to this world? Nagato asked again. Well, I don't know how to bring about true peace, as that is impossible, I said, causing him to raise an eyebrow. What do you mean it is impossible? He asked. It's just impossible. No one will ever collectively agree on everything, and that will breed more hatred, so in a sense true peace is unattainable, I said, looking at the two Akatsuki members. That is preposterous. The only way to attain true peace is to rule over all with an iron fist, Nagato yelled. That won't work any better. It would actually work worse. People would rebel against you as long as you force them to submit. The only way to attain peace is by making the most people happy and content with their lives as best as you can, I said, causing Nagato to look at me funny. I sighed before pulling a certain book from my pocket. I held it up towards him. The Tale of a Gutsy Ninja, the title of Pervy Sage's first book. He wrote this based on a student he once had, and I am pretty sure all three of us know who it was about, I said, looking between the two. Yeah, it was about the Yondaime Hokage, wasn't it? Conan said as Nagato nodded, agreeing. Wrong, he wrote this story based on you. Nagato. Pervy Sage was so moved by his time with you three that he felt as though that you three were a part of his family, and the day he left was him practically telling you that he put his trust into you, that you can change the world for the better. Ruling with an iron fist is not the way to achieve peace, I said, before letting them take in what I had just said. Well, if my idea of peace doesn't work, what will? Nagato scoffed. Friendship, and what I mean by that is an alliance between all nations, large and small, that is going to be the only way to achieve any sort of peace in this world, I said, causing him to scoff at my remark. Impossible. Iwa is at Konoha's throat. Kumo and Kiri are butting heads over land disputes, and Suna has Iwa troops testing the borders monthly since the failed invasion from Orochimaru 3 years ago, Nagato yelled, and that doesn't even account for the hatred the minor nations have for the majors, he said. That's the thing, if the 5 major nations somehow come to an agreement along with a handful of miners, then I doubt that the miners would form a coalition that could oppose them. I said, knowing that what I am saying is true, it doesn't matter if the major villages will not agree to such terms. The ludicrousy of that idea baffles me to no extent that you think that could ever come to fruition, Nagato said with a hint of venom. Again, ruling with an iron fist would not work either. Either way, people won't agree and they will get mad for petty reasons, but this will cause the least amount of bloodshed, I said as he looked at the ground in thought. Fine, you have proven to me that there is another way to form peace throughout the world, therefore, Nagato said, clasping his hands together in a snake seal. Nagato, wait. Conan said, startled at something. If you perform that jutsu in your current state, you'll die, she said as a single tear rolled down her cheek. I must do this. I owe it to Jiraiya-sensei, as I have realized that I have indeed failed him and his teachings, Nagato said, glancing at Conan. He started to channel chakra as Conan spoke up. Again, wait, she said, running to her dying friend. She placed her hands on his frail cheek and placed her lips on his. Wait for me, will you? She said, releasing the lip lock. Conan, said a stunned Nagato. Yes, Nagato, she said, looking into his deep purple eyes. I love you, Conan, and before she could say anything else, his chakra spiked. I felt a presence towards the village and I peeked out from the paper match tree to see the same creature that healed the other paths of pain. What is he doing? I say, looking back at a crying Conan. He is performing the Gedo, Rinne Tensai no jutsu, she said, and I looked at her questioningly. I turned to look out the fake tree again to see the creature's mouth open wide and green beams shot all around it. Still not knowing what was happening, I sat for a minute and activated sage mode, and what I saw nearly brought me to tears. He revived them. He revived them all, I said as tears threatened to break out of my eyes. I sat there in awe until I sensed 2 chakra signatures come to life. Hinata. To-san. I mumbled. I couldn't hold it back any more. Tears streamed down my face. I was so happy that I had them back, and they were alright, but I knew that someone was having it rough. I turned to see Conan crying for another reason. Her last true friend was gone, and she had little to nothing left in the world that she cared about. What are you gonna do now? I asked, wiping the tears from my eyes. I think I will go back to aim and rule on, but I will lend an open hand if needed, she said, wrapping paper around Nagato's body as another body wrapped in paper arrived. Are you leaving the Akatsuki? I asked, to which she just nodded. Could you do something for me? I said, causing her to raise an eyebrow. You see, I have a Kekkei Genkei that allows me to copy other elemental affinities, even those with Kekkei Genkei, I said, and she narrowed her eyes, still with raised eyebrows. Just watch, I said, raising my hand and channeling Mokuton chakra into my hand as wood began to sprout from it. What the? She yelled. I told you, I said as the wood retracted into my hand. Henceforth, could you teach me how to do that? I said, pointing towards the pieces of paper still floating around. This isn't a Kekkei Genkei, it's a jutsu, she said, confused. Well, I tried to copy Pain's gravitational abilities, but that didn't work. When I glanced at you with my dojutsu active, I managed to copy it, I said, flashing my dojutsu. Why did your eyelids turn into paper? Doesn't that hurt? She asked, wincing. No, it actually feels normal, I commented. Odd, but yeah, I'll help you out some other time, but to get it to work you have to mix your earth and water chakra in order to create the paper, and I guess that wind is what allows me to control it freely. I guess that makes it a Kekkei Tota, as it uses 3 elements that make it up, she said as I nodded, taking the advice for myself. Thank you, I guess that this is goodbye, I said, shaking her hand. Indeed. Also, could you lay these at Jiraiya-sensei's grave? She said with a somber tone. I promise I will, and I never go back on my word, I said, pointing to myself with a cheesy smile. She smiled at me and was about to leave when I thought of something. Wait, I said, reaching out and grabbing onto her shoulder. What are you going to do with Nagato's eyes? I asked. I wasn't going to do anything with them. Why? She said. I feel that it may be best to just destroy them. It would be devastating if that Madara Uchiha wannabe gets his hands on them somehow. Wannabe? She asked. Yeah, that isn't Madara. The fox told me that he isn't Madara, as he was once under the control of him and could feel his chakra miles away. This guy isn't Madara at all, but someone else using Madara's name to strike fear into people, as everyone knows of his battle prowess, I said, causing her eyes to widen. We've been playing us this whole time. We were just pawns to his game, she said, slowly getting angrier and angrier. I will kill that bastard even if it's the last thing I do, she yelled. Wait, remember, the eyes must be destroyed in order to foil his plans, I said as she nodded. Slowly the paper wrapped around Nagato's head shifted around a bit before his Rinnegan was out in the open. Konan quickly grabbed the two eyes in her hand and crushed them in her fist. That should at least delay him for a long time, if not completely ruin his plan, I said before Konan thanked me for taking the paper flowers and vanished along with the corpses of her old friends. I slowly made my way to Pervy Sage's grave and placed the flowers down and made a silent prayer. I walked towards the still destroyed Konoha, and as I was about to make it into the clearing before the village, I felt lightheaded and began to fall as two people caught me. Easy there, Naruto, said the first voice as the second just placed their hand on my cheek. I looked up to see who was there, only to see the love of my life and Two-san standing before me. Suddenly, with newfound energy, I quickly wrapped my arms around them, bringing them into a tight and love-filled hug. Two-san, I'm so sorry for not protecting you both, I said, closing my eyes and hanging my head down in shame, waiting for some sort of reprimanding, only to feel someone's lips on mine. Opening my eyes quickly, I see the face of my beautiful girlfriend pulling away from me. I said, looking into her now open eyes, you did the best that you could, and something went right as the two of us are here now, Two-san said as Hinata smiled. Hell, I even made amends with my father, Two-san said with an eye smile. I also got to speak with my mother as well, she said as tears threatened to break from her eyes. Two-san, I love you both, I said, bringing them in again. We sat there for a while. As I spoke, I met the Yondaime, I said, causing Two-san to raise his eyebrow. It seems that in the seal he was able to place some of his chakra into it, and I was able to meet him, and we talked for a bit until I returned from my mind and defeated pain. I said, isn't it wonderful how much wisdom the words of your Two-san speaks, he said. At this point I can't tell if you were talking about yourself or the Yondaime, I said, causing his soul to leave his body momentarily. Two-san then proceeded to carry me back towards the village. As I heard cheering as we made it past the tree line, the villagers rushed towards the three of us, cheering for me, hailing me as their savior. They cheered my name over and over again as my friends all congratulated me. I watched as Hinata just smiled at me as I was tossed up and down into the air. I finally did it. I won their acknowledgement. Word count 1955. N will be after omake, omake plus Hinata's Pov. What is this place? I thought. I looked around and I was surrounded by white as. That's all that I could describe it as I looked all around before my eyes landed on someone facing away from me. Hello? I timidly asked, walking towards them. They didn't respond, so I tapped them on the shoulder to get their attention. As I did so, I realized that this person had a similar figure and hair to my own. The person began to turn around, and when they did, I couldn't hold the tears back. Ka-san, I mumbled as tears flowed in a constant stream on my face. Hinata, what are you doing here so soon? She said with a worried face. What? I asked as she brought me into a hug. It was at this moment that I remembered what happened back in my destroyed home. Naruto-kun, I yelled, tears flowing even faster now. Oh my little Haim, I know this is hard on you. It was hard for me when I left you three behind, said Ka-san. I didn't even get to have AF family with Naruto-kun, I said, bawling my eyes out. Haim, why don't you sit down? Ka-san said gently. Bringing me down to the ground, I hugged my mother in silence for a minute before she spoke up. So, who's Naruto-kun? She asked as I began to think of how to describe him. He is the kindest soul I have ever met. He has blonde hair, azure blue eyes, and 3 whisker marks on each cheek. He even purrs occasionally when you scratch them. He sounds lovely, Ka-san said, smiling down at me. He really is. You may have known his parents, I said, causing her to look at me questioningly. Who were they? She asked. His Ka-san was Kushina Uzumaki and his Tu-san is the Yondaime Hokage, I said, causing her eyes to widen. So Shina-chan was with Minato-kun. I knew it. Ka-san yelled out. What? I said, not understanding her. Yes, Shina-chan, Makoto-chan and I were all on the same genin team, she said, smiling. You found quite the man, my little Haim, she said, pinching my cheeks as tears still flowed. I know I did, and now I won't be able to see him again, I yelled out in frustration, realizing I wouldn't see Naruto-kun until he passes away. It's okay, Haim, everything will be okay, we can She started before I started glowing green. What's happening, Ka-san? I said, panicked. I don't know. Maybe it's not your time, she said with a large smile. I love you, my dear Hinata. Tell Hanabi and Hiyashi-kun that I love them forever and that I'll be waiting for them, she said with tears of joy. I love you too, Ka-san, so much, I said, wrapping my arms around her one last time for who knows how long. The green light grew and blinded me, and I closed my eyes only to open them with Ko Sakura, Tu-san and Hanabi standing above me, all crying. Hinata, Hanabi yelled, being the first to notice me. Naruto-kun, where's Naruto-kun? I said, standing up quickly, activating my Byakugan and seeing him in the distance with the woman that attacked us from before and someone whose chakra feels familiar. I ran as fast as I could towards Naruto's direction and ran into Kakashi-sensei on the way. We found him near Jiraiya-sama's grave, and Kakashi-sensei spoke. Easy there, Naruto. Chapter 56, Narutos Pov. I was walking towards the old Hyuga estate in order to help with restorations in that area, when I felt someone behind me. Deciding to humor them, I just kept walking, pretending to not have noticed. However, they got closer and closer, and I smiled when I felt a pair of hands cover my eyes as I stopped. Guess who? I heard someone whisper into my ear. How many guesses do I get? I asked. 1, she said. Well, I better use it wisely, wouldn't you say, Haim? I said, smirking. Indy. Hey, she said, pouting, dropping her arms. That's not fair, she said, crossing her arms and puffing out her cheeks. You forget that I am a censor, right? I said, and she was about to say something as her face became red. You knew the whole time I was following, didn't you? She yelled, causing me to laugh harder. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. There is only one way you'll know, I said, leaning close to her. Naruto-kun, she said, embarrassed. What? I asked, backing away, not like I was gonna do anything we haven't done before, I said, leaning back in. What? She asked, becoming redder. Man, I haven't seen her this embarrassed in a while, I thought, looking into the lavender eyes of my girlfriend. She slowly leaned in, causing me to roll my eyes, and brought her into a quick kiss before I turned around again, teasing her some more. Naruto-kun, she said, pouting again as she pointed to her lips for another. I rolled my eyes and smiled at her shyness before kissing her again. Better, I said, leaning away. She gave a content hum and wrapped her arms around my torso. I love you, Naruto-kun, she said, squeezing tighter. I love you too, Hinata-hime, I said, wrapping my arms around her and kissing the top of her head. Timeskip. What? I yelled at the top of my lungs. Easy, Naruto. Two-san yelled. How could he join them? I yelled, full of venom. I had never been so pissed off in my life. I know this is hard, but you must see the facts here. Naruto Sasuke joined them for his own reasons, and now we have to take him down, Two-san said as I began to walk towards the tent flap. Naruto, listen to Kashi-kun, we know how hard this is on you, but Ka-san never finished as I was already out the tent flap. I can't believe that Teme would join the Akatsuki. Not only did he join, though he tried to abduct the Hachibi Jinchuriki from Kumo. I will kick his ass next time I see him, I pledged, looking up at the night sky. I breathed in the fresh air on the cool autumn evening in the hopes that someday I will be able to live my life with Hinata-hime without a care in the world. I knew that would never happen. As our careers continue, we would anger more and more people, and then the cycle of hate will continue. I decided to make my way to the makeshift hospital to check on Ba-chan when I overheard a conversation I never wanted to hear. Did you hear Danzo is being named the Rokudame? Can you believe that? Some Anbu said, while the other just smacked the first upside the head. Moron, don't talk about that in public. The second scolded. Son of a bitch, I whispered before running back towards our tent. Ka-san, Two-san, I yelled, ignoring their startled stares. What is it, Naruto? Ka-san asked. I just learned that Danzo is being named the Rokudame, I said in a hushed yell, causing them both to look at me like I murdered their families. You're kidding, right? Ka-san said. No, I just heard two Anbu talking about it while I went to check on Ba-chan, I said. This is extremely concerning, as he wants to take over the world under Konoha's name and will attempt to do so by force, Two-san said. Damn it, and wasn't there a Cage Summit coming up to talk about the Akatsuki? I asked, causing both Ka-san and Two-san to nod. Yeah, there is. However, I do not feel that this will really solve anything in the long run, as this will only be till the Akatsuki are finished, Two-san said. I walked out of the tent flap to my parents' tent a little while later. After talking about the Akatsuki and what more has been found out about them, I was once again walking under the stars when I felt someone following me. I turned around to see no one there, but I know that someone is near. Kurama, be ready just in case. I thought. Will do, Kit, he replied, walking further towards my tent, which was a little bit closer to the Hyuga's temporary residence. As I was about to enter my tent, I once again felt someone following me. I turned around again and caught a glimpse of them. They wore a black trenchcoat that had a plain white mask with the kanji ne, meaning one thing. Danzo is watching me closely, I thought with a sigh. I entered my tent and was surprised to see Hinata sitting in the middle looking up at me. Hinata-hime, what are you doing here? I asked. I wanted to spend time with you, she said as I smiled. You know, you could have always just asked and I would spend some time with you until I had to come back here, I said. That's not really what I had in mind, she stammered out. At this point I was really confused when I noticed Hinata brought a change of clothes. Wait, you want to stay here tonight? I said rather loud before she placed her hand over my mouth, trying to keep me quiet. Shush, I don't want you to wake anyone up, she said, taking my hand in hers. Hinata. I was rather surprised at her boldness. Yes, I wanted to stay with you, Naruto-kun. I died during your fight with Pain, as well as a lot of other people. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here right now, and with that I wanted to stay with you, she said. I Get that, but what will Hiyashi-sama think? I said as her eyes widened. Please tell me you at least told him. She shook her head, confirming my fear that she had not told her father. You realize he will castrate me if he finds out, right? I said, causing her to nod and attempt to leave with her head down. I said, if he finds out. I said, causing her eyes to widen. Come here, Heim, I said as she jumped into my chest, nearly taking the tent down with us. What followed was a steamy make-out session before we fell asleep peacefully in each other's arms. Timeskip, Naruto Uzumaki, rang throughout the village the next morning, waking me. I laid there just looking at the top of my tent with an equally scared Hinata right next to me. We are dead, I stammered out as a single tear rolled down my face, realizing how dead I was going to be in about 10 seconds. Naruto Uzumaki, you are a dead man. You hear me? I heard Hinata's very pissed father scream. Suddenly I hear scuffling outside my tent. And when it opens, it reveals both Tu-san and Ka-san. Naruto, what did you? Tu-san started. Oh. Looks like our little boy became a little man, snickered Ka-san. It's all right, Tu-san, I have accepted my fate. I will be with my birth parents shortly, I said in a dramatic way. I'll go to Sakura's tent. Maybe that'll keep you alive and Tu-sama from killing you, Hinata said. I only nodded, as I didn't want to voice what I was thinking. Kurama, how well is your healing ability at a maxed out rate? I thought, not good enough for what I presume is coming. You'll be out for weeks if you are lucky, Kurama said, also scared for his life. Sure, he'd regenerate in a few years, but I think that would be too much of a pain in the ass. I wasn't really paying attention to how fast time was going. I laid there waiting for Hiyashi-sama when the flap to my tent suddenly went wide open with an angered Hyuga. Can I help you, Hiyashi-sama? I said with my best acting skills. Where is my daughter? He yelled. I don't know, I think she said something about staying with Sakura or something like that, I said, causing the male Hyuga's eyes to narrow at me. He left without saying anything and I let out a breath I knew I was holding in. I began to get ready for the day. When I came out of my tent, I was immediately blindsided by both Yu-san and Ka-san. They were asking me 1,000 questions about what happened when nothing did happen in all reality. Yo, Anko, Kakashi, wanna pump the brakes a little bit there? I heard another voice call out. Asuma, what are you doing over here? Asked Tu-san. Well, I came over cause Kurenai's over here at the moment helping look for Hinata with her father. What? She said she was at Sakura's tent, I said, knowing that she went over there a few minutes ago. She wasn't there. Hiyashi is kinda panicking, said Asuma. I looked around and saw a hint of the root Anbu that Danzo controls, son of a. I mumbled as I moved as fast as I could towards the Anbu, catching them by surprise. Where's Hinata? I yelled. Danzo-sama wishes to see you, they said. My hair fell down over my eyes as I spoke again. I will say this once. Where is Hinata? Danzo-sama wants to see you, was all the Anbu said whilst trying to free themselves. However, my grip tightened. Tell Danzo this. If it is a demon he wants, then it's a demon he'll get. Chapter 57 Narutos Pov. Storming through Konoha, I made my way towards the makeshift Hokage tower only to find Danzo sitting in Ba-chan's chair with a shit-eating grin on his face, not even bothering knocking. I barged in as his announcement of becoming Hokage was never announced yet. I could use this to my advantage. Excuse me, but that seat does not belong to you, I said, looking at the back of the chair. Ah. Naruto Uzumaki, just who I wanted to see, Danzo said, turning in his chair to face me. Answer me, that seat doesn't belong to you. Why are you in it? I asked. Ah, that's right, it hasn't been announced yet, but you are looking at the Rokudame Hokage, so you better mind your tongue, he said, smirking. Nothing has been made official yet, therefore you are not my Hokage, I said towards him. Yet, said A new voice. I noticed that the other two advisors were here as well. He is not the Hokage, but it has already been approved by the daimyo of Hai no Kuni, added in. Homura said while Koharu just nodded. Now on to why I wanted to see you. His grin formed again. This time it was as devious as ever. You are to remain in the village until the day you die. You are being stripped of your shinobi title and having your chakra sealed away, he said. And why do you have authority over me if you have yet to become Hokage? I asked, knowing what kind of leverage he may have, and the mere thought of it terrified me. You must comply or a special Hyuga will lose her sight, he said, smiling wildly. Could you overload such a seal? I asked Kurama. It would be easy to do so depending on how it interacts with your current seal, he said. Alright, I have a plan. Kurama, do you think that I could open the seal even though we haven't formed a perfect partnership? I mean, I haven't even confronted my own hatred. I thought. Listen, you must open the seal in order to have the best chance of overloading the seal. You can do it within your mind and no one will notice until my chakra is already flowing through you. The best time to do this would probably be the moment the seal is about to be activated. I do not know if you will be able to handle it, but we can work on your hatred. I know a place, Kurama informed me. Well, Koharu asked. I agree to these terms, however there is something I need you to assure me of, I said, getting a nod from Danzo to go on. I need Hinata to have no mental or physical harm to her. Nothing can be done to her or anyone else close to me, I said as Danzo nodded. Also, I would like 1 week to travel out of the village as I will be stuck here for the rest of my life. You can even send your Anbu to watch me if that eases your mind. He nodded again, taking this information in. Lastly, I want to tell you that my eyes are not attainable for anyone else. Even if they were to be stolen, the dojutsu would not work as it works to coincide with my chakra and my chakra alone, I said, knowing this bastard would try and steal my eyes from me after or during the sealing process. I can live with these terms, Danzo said, allowing this. However, the Hyuga will not be released until after your sealing has been completed, he said. I nodded, but I was internally cursing Danzo to the deepest pits of the Shinigami's gut. I walked out of the makeshift office and made my way to my tent and gathered my belongings. Naruto, what are you doing? Ka-san asked me, walking into my tent. I am leaving for a week in order to train as I had requested of Danzo, I said. You what? She yelled. It's not that big of a deal, I said, knowing that there is some root Anbu listening in. What do you mean it's not a big deal? She yelled again, as I said, I am just going outside the village for a little bit, I said, while secretly telling her Root was listening with hand signs. Fine, but I want to know everything about it once you are back, she said, leaving the tent. I sighed and continued my packing. I also wrote a note to Tusan to give to Hiyashi-sama after a few days of him receiving it. The letter was mainly telling Hiyashi about what my conversation with Danzo was about and that he had his daughter, but I told him not to act until the right time, as he will know when the time is right. I walked to the village gates handing my paperwork to Kotetsu and Izumo, and they let me leave. After about a day of traveling east, I found myself nearing the edge of Hai no Kuni and near where Uzushio once stood. I took a boat from Hai no Kuni into Kaminari no Kuni. I can't lie, I was a little apprehensive about this, and when the boat landed I was surrounded by 4 people, all wearing Kumo headbands. I recognized them as Kurabi, Omoi, Kurui and Samui. I guess Yugito couldn't make it, I said jokingly, raising my hands, surrendering. Even though we know you, that doesn't mean you can enter Kaminari no Kuni without reason, Samui said. Yeah, Bakayaro Kanoyaro. Kurabi said, thanks, but I do have a reason, although I can only ask for your help, I said, turning to Kurabi. Why would Mr. 9 need to use that time of mine? Kurabi said with weird hand movements. I need your help with this, I said, raising my shirt pointing to my seal. You realize that makes no sense, right? Omoi said, lowering his sword a bit in confusion. I need help forming a partnership and cure. Kyuubi knows a place within Kaminari no Kuni that can help me. I assume this is where you and Yugito trained with your Biju, I said, causing Kurabi's goofy and rapping nature to drop. Why do you need this and why would we help? Said Kurabi without rapping, shocking the other three. Look, I am doing this to try and save lives not just in Konoha but everywhere, I said. And how would this partnership help in that? Kurabi asked. Look, that bastard Danzo was named Rokudame, which I know not a single soul minus Danzo truly wants. Not only that, but he has Hinata and wants to seal my chakra away and imprison me in my own village. I only submitted to his terms because Kyuubi told me that he could overload such a seal, but to do that he needs the seal unlocked, but I can't do that yet until I face my inner self and absorb his chakra as my own or something like that, I said, causing Kurabi to raise his eyes. You are right, Danzo is the lowest of low when it comes to valuing human life, maybe just around Orochimaru, Kurabi said before pausing, looking around. All right, I will help you, but what will we get out of it? He asked. Ever since the pain incident, which I am sure your village spies already told you about, I have gained a lot of leeway in the village. However, Danzo must be dealt with, I said. All right, well, that still didn't really answer my question, he added. Right. Sorry, I was thinking that a trade agreement would be the best, as since Kaminari no Kuni is in nearly all mountainous terrain, you lack lumbar, which we have in abundance of. Sure, you have precious metals, but they get cool too quickly for people to truly live in, especially in the mountains during winter, I said, getting nods from Kurui, Omoi and Samui. That is reasonable, but I feel it isn't enough, he said. All right, could we work this out? After I only have a week free from Danzo's grasp and I never sensed his Anbu following me, so I think he hadn't sent anyone following me. How do you know? Kurui asked. I'm a sensory shinobi among many other talents, I said. All right, I will train you enough to fight, save the one you love and rise above. Yeah, Kurabi said, rapping again. I chuckled at his antics and watched as the other three let out a disgruntled sigh as we made our way towards the place Kurama told me about. Genbu, here I come. Chapter 58, Naruto's Pov. I sat in a lotus position in front of a weird waterfall. There was a circular piece of land in front of it and I began to clear my mind. Before I knew it, I was dragged into a copy of the waterfall and its near surroundings. Well, looks like the worthless Kyuubi brat finally decided to show up, came a snarky yet familiar voice. I turned around to find myself, however, the silica in his eyes was black and the iris was red, so I guess this is what he meant by facing myself, I said, causing the copy to raise a brow. Oh, I know everything about you, yet you think that he is working with you. How laughable. You really think that the Kyuubi who destroyed so much is willing to work with a brat like you, said the copy, laughing hysterically. So what if he really is looking to get out of this damn seal to get his vengeance? I am here because I have trust that he wouldn't do such a thing, plus I really don't have a choice, I said, smiling sadly at the copy of myself. Oh, Hinata, like she even truly cares for you. She got a petty crush on you after you saved her from a couple of people. Who cares? Not a single person can love someone for all eternity based on that, said the copy. I know that you are supposed to accept the hatred and not give in and fight, but it may be entertaining, I thought, knowing what I have to do. All right, I'll entertain you with a little spar, I said, readying myself. Oh, you want to fight? Now I knew this would happen, said the copy while grinning sadistically. Actually, this is a good way to measure my strength, I said, pissing the copy off. Fuck you, you are just as scared and useless Brat that runs around the village wishing for acknowledgement when you won't get any, he yelled. Oh. I thought you knew everything about me, I said. I do know everything about you, he said back. Really, you should know that most see me as the hero of the village after my fight with Pain, I said smirking. Oh, our fight against Pain, you forget that you lost control and let me take the wheel. Now it was the copy's turn to smirk. We rushed into each other and engaged in a bout of taijutsu. The copy went for a fake left followed by a leg sweep. Trying to catch me off balance, I dodged. Jumping back a few paces, running at him again, I formed a half ram seal, but he mimicked me. Kage bunshin no jutsu. We both yelled as 50 bunshin each popped into existence, fighting each other. Interesting, so you can tell what jutsu I will use and perform the counter for it. I ran at him, faking a right jab, following it up with a left hook. This connected, sending the copy flying backward, crashing into the waterfall. Standing back up quickly, he began to form a dog hand seal. Futon shinkugyoku, the other me yelled. I formed a tiger seal. Kaiten hosenka no jutsu, I yelled back, sending multiple bursts of fire to the counter. Thankfully it was successful, but the copy made another hand seal bird. Suiten daibakufu no jutsu, doten doryuheki, I yelled, blocking the torrent of water from sweeping me away. Damn you, yelled the copy, making another hand seal ram, bakuten. Bakuhatsu se boido. A flaming projectile came flying at me and I knew that I could only dodge this attack. I barely avoided the explosion when I saw a wave of mud rushing towards me. Damn it, I said. Before replacing myself with one of the many clones still fighting, I quickly dispersed the enemy Kage bunshin before setting my sights on the true copy again, slippery son of a bye. He was unable to finish as I charged him, embedding my fist in his gut. Never talk about my parents that way, I said as he laid there on the ground. All the bunshin dissipated, leaving just the two of us. Here, I said, holding my hand out. What are you patronizing me? The copy asked as I grabbed his hand and brought him into a hug. Everything will be all right. Was it good to vent out some frustration? I asked as I watched his black and red eyes turn to azure blue and white. Suddenly I was brought back to the real world and I turned around to see Kurabi and the other looking at me. Well, that was fun, I said, standing back up. What did I say about you giving yourself the 1-2? He said, rapping. What? I wanted to see what it would be like fighting against myself when the copy was actually gunning to kill me. In extension, take over, I said, shrugging as the three shook their heads at their sensei's terrible rapping. Alrightio, might as well get on with the show. Yeah, B said, walking into the waterfall. We walked through a hall where a bunch of statues stood with their heads missing. That's unsettling, I said. You said it, said Omoi, hiding behind Kurui. Get off me, you damn coward, Kurui said, bashing him atop his head, sending him back a few feet. We finally reached the back where there was a weird animal head. I couldn't make out exactly what it was, but Kurabi spoke before I could question it. What lies inside is a test where you cannot hide with your head on the line. You'll be judged by the divine. Should you be seen as bright and true, the passage will open for me and you. Kurabi said. I mentally cursed his damn rapping as it made this much harder than it needed to be. So let me get this straight. I need to stick my head inside the mouth of that thing and it'll judge whether or not that I am worthy, and if I am not worthy it will bite my head off. I asked just to make sure, only for Bai to smile at me with a thumbs up. I sighed before looking back at the next step. In obtaining Kurama's power in full, I slowly stuck my head in the mouth of the thing only to see a switch. The hell? I thought before flipping it. I heard a click and it wasn't the thing crushing my neck and ripping my head off, so I assumed that I did it, but I wasn't the #1 prankster in Konoha for nothing. I let out a scream and faked trying to get my head out, but I was hiding my head In my top. In actuality, Kurui, Omoi and Samui all grabbed hold of me and brought me out just as I finished covering my head completely. All three of them let out gut-wrenching screams of fear. Just kidding, I yelled, pulling my top down, popping my head back out from my top. Omoi fainted. Samui stood there with a stoic look, trying to hide her embarrassed blush, and Kurui had a tick mark on her forehead, clenching her fist. Bai was laughing his ass off as I entered a room with him that was extremely bright and looked like it was a nebula from another world. I guess now's the time to be serious, Bai said, no longer rapping. What you need to do now is once again in the lotus position. Enter your mindscape and confront the biju within. I will assist you when you need it, but I won't be able to do much. This will be the toughest game of tug-of-war you may ever play in your life, Bai said. I nodded and sat down and quickly entered my mindscape to see a heavily smiling Kurama. Well, Kit, here we are. Just because we are now partners through and through doesn't mean I will not make this hard for you. You will have to work for it to obtain my chakra, Kurama said, holding his fist out of the cage. I fist bumped Kurama as I raised my right hand and lifted my shirt with the left. Each finger glue blue as a seal formula in the shape of a key appeared on my wrist. Are you ready, Kurama? I asked. Been ready, Kit, Kurama replied. Just as I was about to open the seal, I heard a voice, Naruto-kun. Before I knew it, I was no longer in my mindscape. I was in a room similar to the one Bai and I entered. In front of me stood a beautiful woman with long red hair and violet eyes. She wore a white high-collared blouse underneath a loose-fitting green dress that complemented her hair really well. Is that you, Naruto-kun? She said again. I couldn't tell who she was at the moment, but her voice sounded soothing and for some reason familiar, very familiar. Well, looks like you don't really know who I am. I guess that shouldn't be too surprising, Databane, she said with that little slip of the tongue. I knew full well who this was standing in front of me. Ka-san. Chapter 59. Naruto's Pov, Naruto-kun. She yelled, wrapping her arms around me, crying, Ka-san. I said back, wrapping my arms around her. You've grown so much, she said as tears continued to stream down her face. Why? Yeah, it's been 16, almost 17 years. I said, looking down. My sweet boys all grown up, she said, collapsing to her knees. Ka-san, I said in an attempt to catch her. She started speaking, but it was hard to tell what she was saying. I'm sorry. I barely managed to hear. What, had I been stronger I could have kept the Kyuubi at bay long enough for Minato Koi to fix the seal before he showed up, she said, bawling her eyes out. Ka-san, it's okay, I said, bringing her into another hug. We sat there for a little bit as she cried into my shoulder as I whispered encouraging words like it wasn't her fault or everything is okay. I am all right, Ka-san, I said, getting her attention as her crying and sorrow finally subsided drastically. Naruto, she said. I gave a measly smile. It's all right, even though I am being hunted by the very man who was responsible for ripping Kurama out of you. I have made friends. I was adopted by Kakashi Hatake and his bride-to-be Anko Mitarashi, and I found love, I said, looking down sadly, remembering why I am here in the first place. Naruto-kun, you were being hunted, she said, beginning to hyperventilate. Ka-san, it's fine. His plans are almost thwarted. We just have to make sure that all his lackeys are taken care of, and there aren't many left, I said. She nodded as a response. Now what is this about? Love, she said, covering her mouth with a single hand in a giggling manner while nudging me with her opposite elbow. I stopped looking down again. Naruto, she said seriously, she was captured by Danzo after a man that pervy sage taught destroyed a majority of Konoha. That's actually why I am Here he was nominated the Rokudame after Tsunade-sama was knocked unconscious and put into a comatose state. With that he ordered me to get my chakra sealed away and is ordering me to be a pseudo prisoner and locked in Konoha until I die in order for her to be released. I agreed but asked for a week to travel the world to see it one last time as a cover, while in actuality I am training to obtain Kurama's power for myself so he can overload the seal after Hinata is released, I said. Naruto-kun, she said sadly, placing a hand on my shoulder in order to show her own affection. Wait. Hinata, do you mean Hiyashi Baka and Hitomi-chan's daughter? I nodded, thinking how my Ka-san considers Hiyashi-sama in a moronic way. Yes, sadly Hitomi-sama passed away before I could actually meet her, I said sadly. Oh, Ka-san said. Hey, can you tell me how you and Tu-san met? I asked. Trying to change the mood, she smiled widely before going and explaining how she thought Tu-san was like the others that made fun of her, but when Kumo tried to kidnap her he saved her and was the first to compliment her hair. Well, I think your hair is cool as well. I kinda wish that I had some red locks mixed in there, it would have given off a fire-like effect to it, I said, causing her to laugh. It's ironic, I said. What is? She asked. Well, Tu-san fell in love with a woman who not only is the heir of her clan and almost kidnapped by Kumo, but I did as well, I said, thinking how crazy it is that history does indeed tend to repeat itself. That is quite ironic, Ka-san said. Hey, Ka-san, can you use your chakra chains real quick? I asked. I can, but it will shorten my time here. And I gotta help you with the big foosball back there, she said. Actually that's alright, I don't need help. I already earned Kurama's trust and we see each other as partners rather than enemies. I do wish to see your chains though, as I don't know how to use them or know anything about them really. I said. Well, that isn't uncommon. It was a rare Kekkei Genkai that only appeared in some members of the Uzumaki clan, she said. Let me see if I can pump some of my chakra into you to see if it would boost your reserves, I said, placing my hand on her forehead. All right, she said as I channeled chakra into my hand and into Ka-san's head. It's working, she said excitedly. Perfect, I yelled, pulling out a seal and placing it on my arm and hers. What's this? She asked, causing me to smile wildly. Well, I did some research after meeting Tu-san about my seal with Kurama and I realized that it subconsciously pumps chakra into it, keeping the seal intact, so I thought that I would meet you after meeting Tu-san, so I instantly got to work. I learned a bit from Pervy Sage about seals and he helped me use them occasionally, but I find them impractical with my style since I have this, I said, activating my dojutsu. What, you got Minato Koi's Kekkei Genkai and an evolved form as well, she said in surprise. Yeah, thanks to Kurama I was able to get multiple Kekkei Genkai based affinities like Hyeten Mokuton, Jishin Bakuten, Shoten Daiton and Kamaton, I said, listing them off. Incredible, she said as I finished applying the seal. I began to apply it onto myself. What does it mean? If this works, she asked. Well, since my chakra worked while pumping it into you, I am hoping that you would be able to stay. That is if you want, I said, suddenly realizing that she may not want to stay with me. What, really? She said excitedly. I would love to stay with you, Naruto-kun, but what would happen once your chakra is sealed away? She asked. As that thought reached my mind, I realized I would have little time to get Hinata back and keep my mother with me. I guess it will all be timing. I will pump a ton of my chakra into the seal, hopefully not overloading it, in order to keep you alive enough for me to get Hinata back. I said. Okay, I trust you, Naruto-kun, she said as I continued work on the seal. Activating both the flow of chakra was going the right way, but I was losing chakra fast. I adjusted the seal a bit to lessen the amount of chakra going into her, but still keeping her at a level where she is gradually gaining chakra. Perfect, I said, now ready to take on Kurama. All right, mind helping me out her Ka-san? I asked as she nodded, exiting out of my mindscapes. Mindscape, whatever that place was. I looked into my regular mindscape, seeing Kurama smiling as if time hadn't moved at all. I released the seal as I rushed at Kurama, and I decided to try something. I began collecting nature energy, and before I knew it I was in sage mode, not the partial sage mode that I had trained to, but unlimited perfect sage mode. I smirked, jumping over one of Kurama's tails. As it attempted to take me out, I bobbed and weaved through the barrage of tail swipes and arm swipes. In order to push me back, I jumped into the air again, landing a fist into Kurama's jaw. Yada, I yelled in success, only to get smacked by one of his tails across my mindscape. Damn it, I thought. Forming a ram seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, I called out, Mokuton Daijurin no Jutsu, 11 Bunshin. Yelled, ensnaring all 9 tails along with his front 2 arms. Now, I yelled as 2 Bunshin jumped up in the air, forming 2 Rasengan that kept growing. Senpo Odama Rasengan, they both yelled, smashing the large jutsu into Kurama. Ka-san, I thought, on it, she replied as chains shot out of me in multiple directions. I activated my dojutsu, but nothing happened. The chains along with the Mokuton pinned Kurama down. The tug of war match has only just begun. I grabbed onto Kurama and pulled. But instead of grabbing a chunk of fur, I grabbed his literal chakra. Damn it, you used Kushina against me, Kurama yelled. Hey, you never said anything against it, I yelled, pulling with all my might. Damn cheater, he sulked as I continued to pull on his chakra. Minutes passed and I finally separated Kurama from his chakra. I watched as the red form of Kurama formed into a blue ball and shot into me. I exited my mindscape and looked down and saw a golden cloak radiated off of me rather than the red that used to cover me. Wait, the seal, I thought, entering my mind, seeing Kurama napping like the lazy fox he is. Ka-san, please tell me you were there, I thought. I'm right here, Naruto-kun, she said. Can you see what I see? I asked curiously. Yes, but you can cut the visual and audio connection whenever you want. This is quite the detailed seal, Naruto-kun, she complimented. Well, Jiraiya learned from the best, I thought. Actually, he learned from Minato Koi, she said. And who taught him? I said, chuckling. Wah, she said. You, Naruto, looking good with your new look. Yo, bye, said, interrupting my mother's sputter session. Thanks, now I just have to wait to return to Konoha at the end of the week, I said. Time skip. Walking throughout the elemental nations was rather eventful. Running into the occasional bandit and Nukanin and dealing with them properly. I had enjoyed my little adventure, but I wish that Hinata had been at my side. I walked through Hai no Kuni and arrived at the front gates of my home, Konohagakure no Sato. I hope this plan works, I thought. I began to pump tons of chakra into Ka-san's seal, and Kurama's seal had been open since I had fought against him. I learned how to stop the flow of his chakra through me, so I no longer glowed gold. As I walked through the front gate, I was instantly surrounded by Root Anbu. You are to report to Danzo-sama instantly, they said with no emotion or movement at all. I understand that, but I can't move as you all have blades to my throat, I pointed out. They retracted their blades and escorted me towards the T&I department building. Ka-san, if this doesn't work, I love you, I thought as I entered a room with an overlooking room. I saw a man with a brush and ink that was to seal away my chakra. I lay down on the table as the seal master did her work. I lay there talking to my mother and Kurama, discussing the plan again. We got it, Kit Don, Kurama said, but was cut off by the seal activating. So now I am truly alone. Please Kami, let this work. And cut next part after 10 likes and 5 comments.